Ancient mysteries traditions around the world share one peculiar aspect. They maintain how certain places on Earth possess a higher concentration of power than others. These sites, named Spots of the Fawn by the Hopi, eventually became the foundation for many sacred sites and temple structures we see today. What is interesting is that each culture maintains that these special places are connected with the heavens by a hollow tube or reed, and by this umbilical connection the soul is capable of engaging with the other world during a ritual. However, it also allows a conduit for the spirit world to enter this physical domain. In 2008, NASA may have unwittingly proved this observation to be true when it published details of an investigation into FTEs, or flux transfer events, in which they describe how the Earth is linked to the Sun by a network of magnetic portals which open every 8 minutes. Such discoveries help to validate, in the scientific eye, the long-held belief by sensitives and dowsers since the recording of history that megalithic sites and ancient temples are places set aside from the normal world, where a person can connect with locations far beyond this planetary sphere. Certainly, the ancient Egyptian priests regarded the temple as far more than a conglomerate of dead stones. Every dawn they awakened each room with orations, treating the temple as a living organism that sleeps at night and awakens at dawn. The Karnak stones demonstrate alignments, dolmens, and other ancient geometry which is consistent with other prehistoric sites, but which should not have existed in the period in which they were constructed. Scientists and scholars have been attempting to decode the Karnak stones for centuries. All these attempts were destined to fail until an ancient science named geoglyphology, geo meaning earth, glyph meaning a writing or symbol, and ology meaning to study, was rediscovered in 2004. The question up to this point has been, why would a culture move and align so many stones in what was previously considered an abstract manner? Over the past 10 years of studying geoglyphs around the globe, it was discovered that pyramids, stone monoliths, and other geoglyphological geoglyphs were placed on the Earth in addition to several other uses to map out territories which the builder considered their own. Ancient Japanese texts state that these territories were originally designated as the areas within which ancient scholars would teach man the spirituality and sciences of the cosmos. Stonehenge and the Karnak monoliths were constructed at about the same time. What the original Stonehenge depicted is difficult to say, since a portion was destroyed and then later, approximately 1100 AD, the existing stones were placed on the ground within the circle. The new geoglyphs at Stonehenge designate the Celtic territory, which existed at the time the stones were placed. Therefore, we can conclude: 1. The cultures which created Stonehenge and Karnak were related. 2. The cultures which used the ancient science of geoglyphology knew the science of geometry long before the Greeks. 3. The world was travelled and mapped long before we have been told. 4. Technology or mythical traits was much further advanced than previously thought. Latvian-American eccentric Edward Leedskalnin supposedly built Coral Castle in Florida using these ancient technologies. In Wikipedia, within the Coral Castle page, there is a link to reverse magnetism, which is the technique Leedskalnin supposedly used, but this page no longer exists. Scientific studies in recent years have proven that this technology is possible. Even Tesla wrote about this. Today, sonic drilling is now a commercial technique used to bore into hard stone, and acoustic levitation has been tried and tested on a small scale in laboratory conditions. Acoustic levitation has been put into practice by many people and organizations, one of them being NASA. NASA used this method to perform anti-gravity experiments, and also the Chinese scientist used the same method to levitate small animals back in 2006. These physics are still unknown to the full extent to us today, but the truth is, we already know that people can use the acoustic law of physics to levitate small and large objects alike. Otis T. Carr developed a craft which allegedly could fly just by utilizing magnets and neutrons that were fitted onto the craft. The neutrons were basically two ice cream cones put together to form a diamond shape. The magnets and neutrons would then act as a generator and capacitor, thereby generating a lot of vibrational power when rotated, and at some point the craft would get to the resonant frequency of its surroundings, and it would cancel everything out and go to a 0 point. And once you reach 0 point, they say you can go wherever you want. Nature doesn't use any language, yet it is talking to us all the time. And the key is to identify what it is saying. In the 1990s, Ernest Oppenheimer, who was a diamond and gold mining entrepreneur, found a mine in South Africa 22,000 feet deep, cut with absolute precision, indicating advanced laser technology. In 2014, an ancient mine was also discovered when the wall of a modern mine collapsed, revealing a tunnel that was far more ancient and cut out with more precision than that of the existing modern mine tunnel. When this was discovered, it was closed down by De Beers and nobody was allowed access to it. It hasn't been explored since. We are taught that we cannot create or destroy energy. Was the Big Bang not a creation of energy? In 2007, the Middleton, Tennessee State University proved that sound could travel faster than the speed of light. It was even written up in the American Institute of Physics and then quickly hidden out of sight. Is it really possible to propel sound faster than the speed of light? And is sound the creative source of everything, including light? There is one common denominator that remains the source of all things: sound and resonance, the common links of creation. Modern science tells us that we live in an electromagnetic universe, when actually some have reason to believe that we live in a magneto-electric universe. There is a difference. It's a small subtlety, but because magnetism is the thing that rules the universe, not electricity. Sound, magnetism, then electricity, and you will see how this chain reaction causes everything that we observe. Everything in creation spins and vibrates. Everything has its own prime resonance frequency. Everything. Which is why when we can identify a prime resonance frequency of a bacterium, an atom, whatever, we can then manipulate that object with its prime resonance frequency. Sound and resonance are common links of religions and creation. If we look at how the different religions believe the world came into creation: Christianity, the Word; Hinduism, Om; Egyptian, Song; Aboriginal, 3 sacred songs. Remember what I said earlier about the serpents? In the earliest schools of mysticism, the symbol of the Word was the serpent. Then we have the phenomenal similarities between the 6 days of creation in Christianity and the Word that created everything. The 6 aspects of Om and the 6 aspects of the all-seeing eye of Horus. And you start seeing the connection between all these ancient cultures and their creation stories. And then the creation stories get even more interesting. The Christian creation story describes how the Word created. The Hindu creation story tells of Om, and the Aboriginal creation story describes the 3 sacred songs. Sound and resonance is responsible for everything. It is the breath of the Creator, the prime resonance frequency, and the source code for everything in creation, including our DNA. Sound even manifests into physical form. This video shows how sound and resonance manifests into physical form. Every frequency has its own specific shape. The higher the frequency, the more complex the shape of the manifested physical form. What I find interesting about this video is that the shapes remind me of some of the stone circles, especially those in South Africa and Jordan. Using a cymoscope created by Erik Larson, the human voice can create beautiful mandalas. We are indeed creators. The human voice has the potential to create infinitely.
Your voice is a holographic representation of all that you are. Using the cymoscope, an instrument that makes sound visible, a moment of the beautiful geometry in your voice can be captured forever, to create your own unique harmonic voice mandala.
We have the potential to create anything we can imagine. Also remember that every thought you have also has a frequency and a vibration as a resonance. Some of these cymoscope images tell us that it was these sounds that actually inspired religious symbols. Sound can pretty much do everything because it is the source of creation, and the ancient civilizations understood sound and frequency and used it as a source of energy. We know by now that the pineal gland is pretty much what represents the all-seeing eye of Horus. It's a receiver, it's a transmitter, it's a powerful tool that we should be using but we're not. So the question is, did these ancient beings use these cone-shaped tools and other techniques to manipulate our pineal gland and our DNA through the tree of life with tools of sound and frequency? Some seem to think so. The medicine wheel is a cross in a circle that represents sound. The Native American healers knew that sound heals. The Sumerian seal swastika has its origins in sound. The Ark of the Covenant was believed to have been a sound energy generating device, a communication device with which Moses could communicate with God. With the blast of a trumpet and a shout, the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. Was the Ark some kind of sound-generating device using electromagnetic pulses? In 1931, Royal Raymond Rife found the cure to all diseases with prime resonant frequency, or PRF, the frequency at which an object naturally resonates. His handwritten manuscript with all of his notes are stored in Sedona, Arizona, and can be viewed. The cure for cancers, diphtheria, tuberculosis. The multiple wave oscillator, MWO, was invented by Georges Lakhovsky with the assistance of Nikola Tesla for his expertise in engineering of radio technology. They were used historically in French cancer clinics in the 1920s and 1930s. In 1925, Lakhovsky wrote a radio news magazine article entitled "Curing Cancer with Ultra Radio Frequencies." In 1929, while in France, he was the author of a book, "The Secret of Life: Electricity, Radiation and Your Body," in which he claimed and attempted to demonstrate that good or bad health was determined by the relative health of these cellular oscillations, and bacteria, cancers and other pathogens corrupted them, causing interference with these oscillations. And more recently, Anthony Holland, composer and researcher, who in a TED talk in 2011 shows how he cures cancer with sound frequency. You'd think he would have become famous, but since then we've heard nothing from him. He's sort of disappeared. When you see these people shattering glass with their voices, what they are actually doing is first tapping the glass to find its resonant frequency. Then they sing that note, inducing a resonant vibration in the crystal glass. The vibration grows larger until the glass is shattered. The same thing happened with the Tacoma Narrows Bridge disaster in 1940. The bridge was built where there was a steady wind blowing across it, and on the day of the disaster, the wind induced a small vibration in the bridge, at first hardly noticeable. The problem was the frequency of the vibration matched the resonant frequency of some part of the bridge. The vibration then grew until the bridge collapsed. Using sound, John Keely levitated objects in 1888. This is a video showing how sound is used to levitate stones. Dr. David Deek shows how acoustic levitation works using pressure waves. Peter Davey in New Zealand boiled water with resonance in 1940. Egyptologists have explained that the Egyptians transported the stones via ship down the Nile. This feat has, however, never been demonstrated, but was just stated as historical fact. Although this method of transportation has been used throughout history, there is no evidence that the ancient Egyptians had developed this technique more than 4,000 years ago. Acoustic levitation sounds way out there, right? But this theory is gaining momentum. Acoustic levitation has been reported to have been harnessed by the Tibetan monks by using drums, their voices, and musical instruments, documented by author Bruce Caffey. A Swedish doctor, Dr. Jarl, spent some time with the Tibetan monks in 1939, where he was allowed to observe the monks practicing this lost technology. On his return, however, the videos he made of this was then confiscated by the English authorities. Sound creates light. One of the ways that sound can produce light is by sonoluminescence, a phenomenon by which the energy of a sound wave in a fluid is concentrated to create flashes of light that last for a very brief period, creating what is known as star in a jar. Therefore, technically, sound produces light and does not get converted into light. Sound can also create a cloak of invisibility. In 2014, a 3D plastic pyramid acoustic cloak was created, and when something is placed underneath it and exposed to certain frequencies, it disappears. There have also been reports of people disappearing during chanting. Sound creates hurricanes. In 2003, there was a patent application for a hurricane and tornado control device. In 2003, astronomers found for the first time sound waves from a supermassive black hole. The note is the deepest ever detected from any object in our universe and it resonates at 57 octaves lower than middle C and is in the key of A sharp, which you will see later how so very significant this is. Sound extinguishes fire. Even a sound fire extinguisher was created years ago. It uses low-frequency sound waves to douse a flame. Dr. Luc Montagnier spontaneously generated DNA in water in 2011. He creates a virus with sound frequency from Paris to Rome on the telephone.